You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Philip Meitzen and today is Friday, August 19th, 2022.
6.
When a sales professional meets you for the first time, they identify a persona that you most closely resemble. Now, a persona represents the characteristics that they believe you mostly match. However, they characterize you will go a long way to determine how they communicate with you and will influence many different decisions, including how aggressively they price a product or service or respond to any requests you may have. They may position you as a know-it-all Nick, a respected Rosie, or a white space Wendy, perhaps even a first-time Frank. So my tip of the week for this week is to reflect on the persona that you're projecting to your suppliers. And, when you do that, reflect on whether this is sending the signal that you want it to, based on the nature of the relationship that you're trying to establish.
5.
In this week's podcast, we shared a recent recording of an AOP Live titled Digital Procurement is Not Easy. Don't Go It Alone, with Anthony Mignogna and Claire Sexton of Corecentric. Now, one of the interesting questions we received was whether procurement should design a tech stack that fits their current scale or maturity level or something that they can grow into. Here's Anthony with his response.
If we think about it in terms of like an ERP, just because that's kind of a familiar proxy, organizations like you got QuickBooks, right? And then you might grow into the next ERP, but you don't need SAP or Oracle, right? So there's kind of like levels to this from a scale standpoint. And that just is a pure kind of ROI conversation, right? If I'm running 10 RFPs a year, do I really need to invest in a tool to do that? Probably not. But if you're getting, whatever. So if we kind of clear that scale issue, I like to say that two things are going to make your organization successful in their investment in whatever project it is. It's going to be a strategic impetus, right? Like, is there a need or a demand, right? And organizational readiness, right? Because it's not just the person that wants it. It's the you got to have your suppliers, you got to have your stakeholders, et cetera. But that said, kind of in the original context of the question, you got a procurement team and they're not super mature, but you've got kind of the need and the scale and the organizational readiness. You're not going to develop that maturity if you don't have the tools in place to do it, right? I think there's a bit of an evolution, but I don't think that the again, assuming clearance of scale and need, I don't think that there's like a notion of like you shouldn't use technology because you're not mature enough. I think you need to begin using it, and you're going to use it in a more mature manner as you get better at it, right? And it's kind of I could use like a woodworking analogy, right? You're not going to get good at it if you don't have the tools, but once you have the tools, you'll get better, and then you'll buy more sophisticated tools.
You can hear our full conversation in the latest Art of Procurement podcast wherever you choose to listen to your podcasts.
4.
How do you design an end-to-end ecosystem-based procurement operating model? Well, last week, we published a special 4-part podcast series in partnership with WNS Denali, where I asked WNS team members for their insights about the basics of an ecosystem approach, and then each set of guests shared specifics across category management, source to contract, and the procure to pay processes. So what exactly is the procurement ecosystem? We talk about that a lot on the Art of Procurement podcast. So I thought it'd be valuable to share Satyan Pathak of WNS Denali what his response was as I asked him, what is a procurement ecosystem?
And this has been focus for us for past few years. And in a nutshell, what it means is that when you're looking at any transformation, any problem, any challenge, we need to take into account the entire procurement ecosystem, the impact, the challenges, and consequently your solution will have on every member and every component of the solution. And let's see what we mean by that. Then if you look at the procurement ecosystem, you've got the procurement team itself, right? CPO, category managers, buyers, other roles like analysts and P2P desk. Then you've got key stakeholders, right? Like internal business stakeholders like manufacturing plants, IT, marketing, HR. And then you've got external ones like suppliers and in some cases customers. Then comes your infrastructure, right? Your policies, your processes, your technology, all that. And then flowing through that is your data and information, whereas purchase orders, invoices, RFXs, supplier queries, analysis, market intelligence, and then finally, providing that support is organization design.
Yeah.
What we really look for is when we are tackling any challenge or any transformation, one needs to really look at all the elements of procurement ecosystem and the interaction it will have. And it's, as you can see, it's pretty complex, and one
Right.
needs to be aware of all these interactions that it will have.
Many procurement organizations often operate without taking into account the entire ecosystem within which they operate. To hear more from this series, you can go to artofprocurement.com/ecosystem series.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement. To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
Category Palooza 2022, our digital event helping you prepare for the volatility in your sourcing and category strategies, is now in the books. With over 1,100 registrants, this was our largest event yet. And we kick things off with a session discussing market intelligence and tips on how to stay current on your market insights as they are changing rapidly. Here is Ben Kempernick, a senior analyst at Procurement IQ, who answered my question on how to validate the relevance of a data source as you're putting together your market insights. Apparently, it all begins with the crap test.
It's not just asking, is this source crap or not? It's a little more involved than that. It's a framework developed by librarians in the California State University, Chico. CRAP stands for CRAAP. It's an acronym: currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, purpose. So currency is sort of the timeliness of the information. And when you're talking about government sources, that's usually the most interesting aspect to me. When was this released? Is it the last census 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Or is it a monthly data source? Relevance obviously is, does it relate to the topic I'm trying to answer? Who is the originally intended audience? The authority is who's giving it, the government obviously, but other sources you want to be asking, what are the credentials or organizational affiliations of that source? Accuracy, is there evidence? Has it been peer reviewed? And then purpose kind of gets into things like, is this propaganda from a government specifically? If it's not if it's other countries, they might be trying to use the information to present themselves favorably. Is it fact or opinion? Is it impartial? Is it biased or not? And these are all questions you can ask yourself to try to dig a little bit deeper into the quality of a source.
2.
What impact did COVID have on the in-demand skill sets within procurement? This is a topic that Rupert Gaster, the founder and managing director of Procurement Heads, which is based in the UK, explores on the Art of Procurement blog this week. Among the nuggets of information that Rupert shared, he said that the ability to simplify something complex, identify KPIs, and show a path to success is highly attractive to organizations looking to make a business-critical hire that delivers ROI from the outset. Rather than providing a long explanation of what category management is, for example, procurement professionals who can ask stakeholders, where are you now and where do you want to get to, and then translate that into actions, are those who are in particularly high demand.
1.
Next week, we'll be covering a topic in our AOP Live webinar session that procurement doesn't always get involved in: mergers, divestments, and acquisitions. On August the 23rd, I'll be welcoming Chris McCarney, a partner at KPMG, and Marcos Cortez, a managing director at KPMG, to talk about what procurement's role should be in these high-stakes business deals. If you are interested to listen more about procurement's role and how we can really bring a lot more value to the merger and acquisition process, please go to artofprocurement.com/calendar to register, or use the link at the bottom of today's show notes page.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.